All right, hello and welcome back to part 3 of this course where we will be designing our kick. Now that we've got our project set up with some tools and effects, we can start to build the track. A couple things I want to mention before we get started. In the last video, I forgot to set the BPM of the track, which we will do right up here. And I'm going to set it to 125, which is a very common tempo for minimal and techno, anywhere from 123 to 125, especially for this kind of darker sound. Okay, anyway, now another seed that I want to plant before we really get going is this. Our goal over the next few videos is going to be building up a solid 16 bar loop. And then once we do that, we're going to turn that 16 bar loop into like a 32 bar groove. And that's essentially what becomes the track, or as I like to call it, the meat and potatoes of the track. And once we have this 32 bar groove, the track literally will build itself from there through a series of breakdowns, drops, and effects. So we're going to be taking this 32 bar groove and kind of like basically stripping it down and building it back up. And that's really the core of the song. And then our goal is going to be to trick the user into, thinking that it's more complex than it is. But as you'll see, once we start to build it, we're really just using the same parts and duplicating them, but doing them in a way where it sounds really engaging and enigmatic, I guess, so to speak. Okay, so for the kick, we've got kick 2 loaded here on this channel. And the first thing I'm going to do is make a MIDI clip and get some notes planted here. And no reason to overthink it. It's a basic 4 on the floor, so we're going to get a note in here. And we'll do that. Okay, and as you can see here, the velocities are not all the way up, and we want to have these basically all the way up so our kick is hitting as hard as possible. So I'm going to select all of them. I'm going to hold Command on a Mac, and you can see a double arrow pops up there, and I can basically adjust the velocities of all the notes at once. So I'm just going to do that, and then copy this throughout our MIDI clip. So that should give us our basic 4 on the floor. All right, now that we've got our MIDI pattern up, I'm going to open up Kick, and I'm going to start cycling through some of the presets here in the preset menu. And one of the things that I really like about Kick 2 is that Sonic Academy has done a really good job of giving you some genre categories that you can get started in for the genre that you're writing. So if you're writing, techno or minimal or tech house or house, you can, rest assured that if you're in here in analog or techno or the house, or maybe even the bass house, hard house, whatever, you're bound to find a kick that you can use and get started, with your track. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play here on my MIDI pattern, and I'm going to start going through some of the presets until I find one that sounds good and we can get started with. Okay, so I basically have cycled through a few of the presets, and this one's caught my ear, this UMEC 01. So what I want to do from here is maybe, instead of using straight presets, just kind of mess around with it and see if I can kind of make it my own, so to speak. And one way we can do that is through the Kick 2's click generation section. And basically what this is a section where you can load up some additional layers onto the kick preset and kind of give yourself some more sound shaping capabilities. And you can hear that there if I solo that click 1. So one of the things that I'm going to add is in this, I'm going to drop down this menu here, and there's a reverb section, and I'm just going to basically dial in one of these reverb presets and give my kick a little bit more, depth, so to speak, and take up a little bit more room in the track to kind of give us that, kick, that techno kick feel. So let's have a listen. Okay, not bad. but it's a little too much for me since I'm writing a little bit more of a minimal style. I want to back off on some of this characteristic. So first thing I'm going to do is mess with the length here. And you can see if I go too much, I really kill that tail end of the kick. So I'm going to bring that back up a little bit. So yeah, somewhere around here is fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it at about 50%, maybe 40. Okay, now since we've got this click going on here, I'm going to have a listen to this one, solo that one. And right at the beginning of this sample, I think that they're using here, it's got a little bit of a sharp pitch right at the beginning. So if I back off on the start of the sample, I can basically get that to go away for me. There we go. So you can hear I'm getting more of the drum and not that like transient pop at the beginning. And then it's got a little bit too much weight. So I'm going to go over here to the filter and I'm going to kill some of that weight. Yeah, that sounds nice. I like that. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm happy with that sound right there. What I want to do is kind of hop over here and I want to change these key nodules here. You can see that they've got different key values. And before I started writing the track, I had decided to I want to do something in D. So I'm going to move these nodules around so that they are basically working harmonically with the track as I go writing it. So rather than D sharp, I'm going to move this down to D. And then this click here at the beginning, we're in A. It's an A sharp for now, so I'm going to move that down to D. And same with this one, I'm going to move this down to D. No, I'm going to go up. Let's go up. There we go. So I've left the A sharp and the F here. And if we just hop over to like a, some kind of sound generation sound so we can hear what those three notes sound like. So we got the D and the F and the, so I think what I'll do is I'll move this to the sharp, and that kind of gives us that like darker, mysterious tone. So there, now I know if I start adding some of these some A sharps and F sharps later on in the track, it's going to work with the kick. So we've basically dialed in these note modules here. At least I hope so. Okay, anyway, now that that's done, let's hop back over here. And the next thing I'm going to do is load up a copy of iZotope's new plugin called Neutron. And Neutron is almost like having an assistant mixing engineer in your studio. If you haven't heard of it or seen it, check it out. There's a lot of tutorials on the internet. But basically, you can enable a feature called Track Assistant. And when you do that, what the plugin does is basically will recommend an EQ curve. It can also recommend compression, excitement, or transient shaping to your audio signal, depending on what it thinks that your audio signal might need. So we're going to go ahead and enable that. And it's not always right. I don't always like the recommendations or that it does, but sometimes it does hit the nail on the head. Here it's done. It's given us a EQ curve that it thinks that we might want to consider for our kick. It's added some excitement and compression. I'm going to go ahead and have a look at these settings that it's recommended and see if I agree. I like the exciter, but I think with it being 100% in the mix is a little bit too much, so I'm going to back off on it a little bit. Okay, that's fine. Let's try the compressor. Okay, and I like those compressor settings. So let's hop back over to the equalizer now. Okay, I'm going to have a play around with this. I don't necessarily agree with these. So let's see, let's move this. Actually, let's reset it. And I'm just going to pull up a preset that I've got. All right. Let's give this a little bit of a boost here. Maybe like right around here. Okay, I like that. I've basically given it a little bit more sub over here in this area, giving it a little bit more punch here, bringing out some of that knock in the kick here as well. But we may have to jump back over here and adjust this depending on how our baseline comes along as well, because we may need to duck out some of these frequency places in the frequency range where the bass and the kick could be interfering. And again, Neutron's really good at that. It's got this masking feature that will allow us to look at both frequency spectrums of the kick and the bass to dial that in better. Okay, next I'm going to load another EQ after Neutron. And this is just, this is kind of like I call it my insurance. And it basically, again, I'm just shaping the sound here. And what I want to do is basically make sure that no frequencies are coming in below 30 hertz here. And there's quite a lot of lows from the boost on the sub that I did here. So I think we can even back off on this a little bit more. So that's fine. We'll go to 35 there. And next thing I want to do is, again, just a little bit more compression here. There, I think that sounds really good. Nice, tight, punchy kick. And it's got some really nice lows in there as well. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate my channel. And the reason why I do that is so that I've got two kick channels. One is my main kick channel, and the other kick channel is going to be my filtered kick channel. A lot of times in techno and minimal, or any genre for that matter, you'll hear the producer cut the bass, or they'll take the sub out and you just hear the top of the kick. And I know there's multiple ways of going about doing that. I think that to work efficiently, just to have a channel that's got the kick with the lows cut out of it already makes it much faster to get your track done. I know a lot of people will just use automation to filter the bass out of the kick, which is totally fine. You can do that as well. But this is just the way that I do it. So I'm going to solo that and start basically just backing off on the lows in this channel. So there we go. And let's go ahead and title this one. All right, there we go. So we've got our main kick and we've got our filtered kick, and that pretty much concludes our session on the kick. Join me next time where we will be writing our bass line. Okay, see you soon.